What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk, the fan-created podcast talking all things Rhode Island FC. We're back in the away end tonight to preview the USL Championship FINALS this Saturday against the Colorado Springs Switchbacks. The game is going to be at 12 p.m., and we will be at our second home, Providence Brewing, for this one. They will be open at 10:30, so get there early. Go get yourself a breakfast burrito at Tallulah's and strap in, as this is absolutely going to be a fun one. Each episode of Tide Talk is available on YouTube. And if you're watching now, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and give this episode a thumbs up. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcast. If you listen there, we'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review, as it helps more people find our podcast. If you're not already using the RIFC Club Collector app, make sure to click the link in the episode description and type in the code Tide Talk, all one word, to get a free pack to add to your collection. What better time to start than the championship for your first match? My name is Ryan, and I'll be your host tonight. As this is an away end episode, I am joined by our very special guest, Ben from the Trailheads. So everybody, let's cozy up, let's crack a beer, and let's dive into this one. Ben, thanks so much for joining, man. How are you?
Yeah, of course, man. Happy to be here, and doing pretty good. And
Good.
I got missed the cheers, but
cheers. Awesome. And I already see we have some weather updates in the chat, so this is going great so far. But yeah, Ben, so context here, it's been about 6 months since we sat down with Annie and talked about the Switchbacks. I'm sure, just like with RIFC, we're going to be talking about two completely different teams in this one, so
yeah.
We're really excited as a fan base to learn more today. But first, before we jump into the Switchbacks and the game, can you tell us a little bit about your supporter group?
Yeah, so our supporters group is called the Trailheads. A good chunk of our, majority, they've been here since the beginning. I'm sure you guys have seen 100 posts about Widener Field. We weren't always at Widener. We were actually at a different Widener Field. And, a lot of our core group and a lot of our, main members and founding members have been there since day one, playing in a parking lot. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
we've been really getting in there, and these days we've really grown over, especially over the last couple of years, and really kind of added a lot of different folds into everything.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's what's been one of the cool things about like doing these shows and just meeting all these different people across the USL. Like the supporter groups are just like the backbone of all of this. So it's awesome to hear that Colorado has an amazing one. And I know that our supporters can't wait to go out there and meet you guys, like, party. We always say party before and after. Obviously during the middle is tough, but yeah, definitely will be a party out there for sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be the biggest party of the year. That's for sure.
Awesome. Actually, we had a pre-question in the chat. Speaking of partying around the game, yes, question for our Colorado Springs amigo. How would you rate Mother's Muffs? From our friend Kevin.
Mother Muffs, it's a nice little spot. So the way how kind of Colorado is set up is they're sort of downtown, and then there's what's called kind of Old Colorado Springs. So it's a lot, and that's where Mother Muffs is. I'll admit I've been to Mother Muffs a lot. I've had their food maybe once. And not in any position to remember it, if you know what I mean.
Fair.
So I can't chime in too much, but the atmosphere and there's it's a really cool spot, and it's in an awesome part of downtown.
Awesome. I had to make sure I got that in before I forgot about that comment. But moving on to the Colorado Springs Switchback. So your season so far, you ended in second place in the West on 52 points with a +8 goal differential. You're currently on a 5-game winning streak with just 1 goal conceded over that time, which has really propelled this run to the championship. Obviously, I think the answer is going to be pretty positive here, but how are you feeling about the Colorado Springs season?
I think any season where you get to talk about a final is always a good one. It's hard to be super negative or be like, when there's, a trophy to be had and a trophy already won. So, it's definitely been a pretty crazy year. There's been a lot of ups and downs, and I'm sure we're going to get into that, but it's hard to feel bad, seeing where this team has come and where we've kind of gotten.
For sure. And so speaking of those ups and downs, so one of the segments that we do with our fans after matches is what we call good, bad, the ugly here. So people write in with their good, bad, ugly of the match. But what do you think about that for the Switchback season so far?
So, I mean, the good, it's hard to say, anything but our home record. I think our atmosphere, especially in this league, is up there, right up at the top, and it's so good, and we've been so great all year at home for the most part in our performances. So I would say that's definitely the good. I mean, even just the resilience too. I mean, it's been a lot of ups and downs over the course of the year. I think my singular bad for the year is the game that we let go against San Antonio, one of the last couple home games of the year, where there was the 95th minute equalizer. I mean, we've always had a complicated relationship with San Antonio, and we haven't beat them in ages. And it's 80 minutes in, and I'm like, all right, this is the moment. This is get the monkey off our back kind of the moment. And that first goal, which I have an endless amount of arguments about the legitimacy of it, but I guess neither here nor there. But that last goal, I think it was the 96th minute or so. I've been watching the sport a long time. That one left me empty, not even hurt, not even angry. It's just like, it was one of those things where, I was sitting there afterwards and I was just like, what just happened? So that's definitely the singular bad, and the ugly, pretty obvious answer. The 0-5 start, the real tough start to the year was definitely a pretty ugly patch, especially because in at least 3 of those games we were significantly the better team, and stuff just wasn't working out while we were all kind of learning each other.
For sure. I remember on the first time we were facing the Switchbacks, like we were also win this forever. And like, I was like, maybe this is the one. They kind of seemed like a little more up and down, and obviously didn't work out for us then. But I definitely feel your pain on that win this run there. Perfect. And then as we, one of our other segments we do after shows is called RIFC in 3. So we ask fans for a 3-word review. So give you a little bit of like dealer's choice here. Definitely can go 3-word review for the season, 3-word review for how you're feeling about the match, the excitement of the playoff run, whatever you want to do there.
All right. So I think my 3 words are going to hit, 2 out of 3 at least, maybe a little bit of the regular season. But I just think, inspired at home. I think, our performance at home.
I want to be clear. I'm not loving all this how good we are at home talk right now, but
hey, look, I gotta do something, what I mean? But I think just inspired at home and being able to utilize the things that make that a really great ground, there's a distinct difference, because I do think our crowd size is a benefit to the players as much as it is to anyone else. And there's definitely been games where they're away, we're in kind of rougher, stadiums where there's maybe not as many fans or something like that, or for whatever reason, and you can feel it. So I think just the general inspiration at home.
No, absolutely. And so this is a perfect segue. So we have a ton of fans going to the match. People are super excited. Everyone's always excited to go to Colorado. It's a great place to be. But can you talk a bit more about the stadium atmosphere? Obviously, it's going to be at a 10 on Saturday. So anything you can give fans in terms of like the atmosphere, what they should expect?
I know you said a 10. I'm going to put it at a soft 12 personally. But it's such a gorgeous ground. The area is nice. The mountains are right on one side of the goal. So, you get the full view of Colorado, and it's hard to explain. It's definitely going to be raucous. It's definitely going to be a lot, but I also do think it's a great ground to be in. It's a great atmosphere. You can see the field really well from anywhere in the stadium, and you kind of always get this feeling. And as someone who's been around the sport for a long time, and I think our stadium does a really good job of sort of pushing my point, is we're going to have our rivalry till Saturday afternoon. And, that's all well and good. But I think one of the interesting things about being a soccer fan in America, especially, we all recognize there's not enough of us to really carry bad blood kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So there's some rivalry, there's some fun, but there's always like a level of like camaraderie. And I think that's a really, really good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of us have made trips to some of the different places like throughout this playoff run, and every single time we've all come away with like, man, the tailgate was awesome, the party afterwards was awesome. Obviously, winning has been awesome, but the community around this sport, I mean, even Charleston, after we were leaving, they were like, give them hell, like hell yeah, like go, like good on you guys for traveling. Like here's like beers, and it's such a
Yeah.
great environment. I know people are super psyched to be there with you. Something that keeps coming up in the chat that I don't have a good one to ask about, and it was a little question I had as well. So there's been a couple things in this game, particularly on Saturday, that people have been talking about as potential kind of hurdles. One is obviously the time of the game, which both teams are going to have to deal with that in their own ways. But one that I think a lot of people are talking about that's a big edge to Colorado is the atmosphere, and the team's getting used to that. So how have you seen that impact teams from your perspective?
So I'm gonna kind of take this in two parts because I
Sure.
also do see some of the questions about the altitude as well. So I can kind of take those hand in hand a little
Sure.
bit. With the crowd itself, I do think that there are, certainly teams that are just frankly not used to playing to 8,000 plus. I think one of the things that I've learned, especially watching some of these away games, I think when you're going to that stadium every weekend, it's easy to kind of take the crowd for granted a little bit at
Yep.
times. And I've absolutely seen teams kind of get a little rattled. It's loud, it's tough. And when we sign players in an off season, I guarantee you within the first 3 sentences out of their mouth in every interview is, "Oh, the crowd. I've been here last season and it was awful. It was it's loud." I mean, it's condensed. That front line of the stands is, I think where I'm at in the stadium, it's maybe 15, 20 feet at most from the touchline. So you absolutely have impact. You can rattle, opposition, and I do think that's very much part of our strong suit because not every team can say that, and because with a lot of the mentions of the atmosphere
Mhm.
or the altitude especially. Look, I live here. Mid-November is awful. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm not a high functioning athlete or anything else, but I'm here, I live here, and I'm acclimated. And this time of year is rough. It starts getting cold, already thin air is even thinner. And
Yep.
yeah, these guys are high end athletes and they're designed to handle that kind of thing, but it wears you down,
Sure.
absolutely. And there's a distinct difference between guys that are ready to run at, uh, I believe the stadium is at technically 6,030 even. I might be off by like 2 or 3 feet, but what difference does that make, I suppose? And yeah, I mean it's rough. That altitude does play a major factor. There's been teams, especially Orange County, a SoCal team coming up here right after a major snowstorm, and at 60 minutes in, you can tell they can't.
Yep.
They can't breathe. 60 minutes in, they were done.
Yeah, so I know that that's been definitely a common theme in a lot of the previews I've seen is like if Rhode Island FC is going to do it, they have to do it in like regular time, like extra time. There's no way. So I'm just very intrigued to see how that like extra little wrinkle plays out. But I guess taking in the atmosphere, any tips for the fans that are traveling?
I mean, a little bit of home bias, but if you guys could keep it down a little
Oh,
bit. But no, I mean,
big tip I keep hearing is just water, water, water. So yeah.
I would definitely say hydrate. There's a level of um, knowing where your limits are a little bit, especially with drinking and things like that, because at this altitude, it's going to catch up on you and it's going to catch up on you quick. So I would definitely say, like, if you're going, don't get me wrong, have a couple drinks, have your fun, but like maybe be aware that you can't drink maybe the same way you can in Rhode Island, because it definitely is going to catch up on you quick. And yeah, definitely have a bunch of water.
Awesome. And yeah, shout out to Annie who's in the chat, Switchback Savvy. Yeah, I know Timmy shouted her out for answering questions all week for our RIFC fans. So
Yeah,
we really appreciate that. Friend of the show for sure. And thanks for connecting us to Ben.
I mean, honestly, Annie's a friend of everyone at this point.
Yes. That's what we took away from our first conversation with Annie. Awesome. So, kind of moving towards from the kind of the atmosphere of the match to the match itself. So, for Rhode Island FC fans who haven't seen you Colorado play in a bit, or maybe haven't been paying as close of attention, who are three players that we should keep an eye out for in this one?
So my main three are maybe safer answers, but Iro Enriquez, fantastic. When he's ready to go, when he's on the ball, he is untouchable. He just is. When he's confident, when he's dribbling at people, he's one of the better dribblers I've gotten the privilege of seeing, playing real time. He's fantastic. Obviously Christian Herrera, who has been standing on his head for the last 2 months, and really seeing him even grow over the course of the season, and really starting to see him take command and really own the box and own his area. I obviously, he facilitates everything, because even if we're, a little aggressive in our back line or something, which we do like to do, it's because Herrera is good enough to compensate. He is absolutely the kind of guy who can make 2-3 saves that statistically shouldn't happen.
Yep.
And that's something that can never be unaccounted for. And then obviously, our my playoff MVP so far, Zach Zandy. He's been everywhere. He's been a dog. He just runs everything down. He's a late runner. And he's willing to put his kind of really lay out for the badge. One of the moments that really stood out to me, and Zandy's, a local guy, and he's a great, amazing guy, but there was towards the end of the game last week, I believe it was one of the center backs from Las Vegas, or it might have been a midfielder. But anyway, corner, ball bounces around. He gets the ball top of the box, rips a 40-yarder, and it's gonna be a laser beam. Like, you can feel it. It's low. And Zandy, not thinking about it even for a second, dives in front of it, takes a massive shot. He's down for a second, comes in, finishes the game. But seeing him just lay out for it, because he knows, It's one of those moments where you see it, you go, I can reach it, but there's no way I come out of this, without a bruise. And seeing him not hesitate in the slightest, he really is the heart. He just is all over it.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff, especially on a playoff run where lore is made about a player. Honestly, that guy's going down in history.
I've seen enough. Let's get a statue going.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not the guy who's been doing the Ronaldo and Dwayne Wade statues, but yeah, find something better in Colorado.
The Harry Kane one. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes. Awesome. And our guy Natesky, I don't know if he's in the chat tonight, but he always loves to ask. So obviously 3 players to watch. Usually those are starters. Any subs that you think could influence this one? Especially, again, late, potentially tired legs from Rhode Island.
So Tejada, absolutely. Juan Tejada, fantastic. Just a battery. He's second he comes on the field, I've seen him maybe walk once, and that was to go to a corner. It is just an absolute battery. He's the one who scored the goal against Las Vegas last week. If he's coming off the bench, especially because he's a little bit of a different look, I feel like. One of the things I noticed, especially against Orange County, is we were playing very kind of chalk to boot, staying very wide. And then Tejada comes in, and now the wingers are taking the ball, cutting in, and creating, overloads, kind of creating different looks. Because Tejada is, when he gets the ball, he's only got one spot in mind, and that's goal. He's not going to go to the corner. He's not going to dance. He's just going to line drive, and he has been so instrumental off the bench. He's also the one who scored the winner against Sacramento to secure us, the 2 seed. He's fantastic. And my other bench pick, it would be Quincy Ehrman. He's a winger. I absolutely adore his game. He is a little bit of a lengthier winger. And in my opinion, the reason why we won against Orange County. I know he didn't get on the score sheet. He wasn't the assist guy. But when he came on the field against Orange County, he took over the game. Kind of in the same way with Tejada. He cut in. Nowhere else in the world he was going. At no point just no one was able to stop him. He was unlucky to not score twice. And when he gets the ball, he's an aggressive goal scoring winger. And every time he comes on the field, especially late, the game's going to change.
I always love a sub like that, of someone who comes on and is like, screw this, I'm taking this over.
Exactly.
I'm changing this. Yeah.
Sometimes you need a player that, quite frankly, just is going to go look at the guy across from him and go, I'm better than you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, and that's a refreshing thing from players sometimes.
For sure. Especially I'm a sucker for a winger who can dribble and just torment and make life hell. So yeah, I don't love hearing that for Rhode Island FC, but I love hearing that for the league.
The most solids of the world,
Yeah. I'm an Arsenal fan, so I'll go Bukayo Saka. But yeah.
Crystal Palace, I don't have anything.
Beautiful.
It's life.
Awesome. So, looking at my little rundown here, yeah. So, actually, one thing I skipped over earlier, and I see we're doing pretty okay on time here. So, just one, I guess, like, did you have any feelings when the time came out, or obviously 10 a.m. Central Time or Mountain Time? Obviously not ideal for anybody, but any specific concerns that you had? I know it's been a big talking point going into this week.
I was definitely surprised about it, and it drastically changes how the teams approach it and how kind of both sides. I mean,
Yeah.
we're hurting as much as you guys on that one, but I also think I understand it. I do think there's a level of wanting to kind of skate under the MLS a little bit because the MLS, I believe their first semifinal is 3 p.m. our time. And I understand not wanting to conflict with that because, aside from obviously us with a vested interest in the game, I do think a lot of the people that are probably going to casually watch the game are probably going to hop over to MLS. And I understand kind of the thought of not wanting to cut your numbers a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard that theory. I've also heard the kind of college football idea of like maybe people will just turn it on.
Yeah, I guess take what you can. It's rough on everybody. I mean, my day Saturday's starting real early.
Yeah, luckily a lot of the bars and breweries around here, they're all opening up early, so it should be an awesome atmosphere, awesome time.
A lot of really good accommodation, even on our end of just a lot of the local, especially the heavily switchbacks involved. Local eateries and bars are definitely making some really nice concessions to kind of support this.
Awesome. So as we kind of get to the meat and potatoes of this match, the keys to the game here. So Ben, for Colorado to take this one home, what do you think needs to happen? And if Colorado were to lose, what do you think might have went wrong here?
All right, so I think I'll actually start with y'all's side of the ball on this one. Is I would say for you guys, or if it doesn't ultimately work out for us, I think it's going to come down to letting size dictate the game. Y'all got a real big back line, big midfield. Like you guys have a lot of size, and you've used it in spades. I mean, I actually I watched the Louisville game. Honestly, I've watched you guys all through the playoffs because realistically, we kind of need this, especially if the Louisville game. We're like,
yeah.
But especially the size in the back line. I think if the game doesn't work out for the switchbacks, is because we let the size dictate the game. If we give you a chance to start boxing us out or to start dictating the tempo of the match, I think that's ultimately where it's going to fall apart. We as good as we already get here in this moment, I can also admit we don't have a ton of size. Mm-hmm. We don't have a ton of really big, tall players, and I do think that there's a lot of moments where if this game turns into, taking it to the byline, crossing, and hope for the best, our starting striker's, not super tall. He's not going to win. I'm not sure his name, but number 15, I think, is massive.
Oh, no, Darcy.
Yeah, he's. I remember thinking about it in our last game. I was like, that is a big guy.
Yeah.
And I think if things don't work out for the switchbacks, that's because we're going to let the size dictate the tempo of the game. Now, kind of conversely, I also do think that tempo is the most important part for both of us. I know you guys, I believe you play a 5-3-2. Mm-hmm. You kind of like that more steady backline, breakout in possession, get the wingbacks involved to kind of create those overloads and create those moments, or to really force the game into spaces where, you have to go shoulder to shoulder with a guy who's 6'2", 6'3". On our end, I do think tempo is important because we do like to pick up the pace. We do like to play aggressive and play high. And I do also think that size can be used against Rhode Island, because if this turns into, lump it up, even if it's you spend minutes just lumping balls for the sake of it, just to make them run a little bit, you can use that to your advantage. Or if there's a moment that we can stretch a little bit of pace, because like Zandy and Speedy Williams really like to offset each other in that dual pivot. So there's a good chance to create overloads, or to create especially space in the middle.
Yep.
To where, say, a midfielder has to step into a pass to create a lane. So it's all about kind of that fast break and using that altitude and using our pace to our advantage.
No, I mean, I think that's a really good shout. And everybody, while we're talking about this, please start getting your score predictions in the chat. But yeah, I think one thing that you brought up, especially the size, we've been a big team all year, but I think especially the past 2 games, it's been like, oh my God, we are like actually like a pretty like physically dominant bunch. And I think that has been one of the things that's fueled this playoff run. So interesting to see. I totally hear you on kind of like, is it going to be more like size versus speed on Saturday of like who kind of wins out there? So yeah, it's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch.
So one of the comments in here from Tyler about the games being won or lost in transition on both teams, I think is exactly what I'm getting at. Ultimately,
Tyler knows ball.
It's a transitional moment. It depends on the size in transition or the speed in transition, and that's kind of an interesting dichotomy there.
Awesome. So as we do get some score predictions going, we can follow up with those after. I want to say, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You want for the score?
Yeah, for score predictions.
But hey, it's your show. I'll let you do it before I take over.
Awesome. Alrighty, folks. So I have it as 2-0 Rhode Island FC. So looking at Colorado's last few games, while they've been extremely stingy, they have been giving up some chances. So they had one big chance for Las Vegas, 2 for Orange County, and 1 to Oakland. So they've all been tight, but it's not like these teams aren't amassing any kind of XG. So far in this run, in the 3 games, they've amassed a plus 0.68 XG across the games, XG differential. Meanwhile, Rhode Island FC have been facing, in my opinion, stronger competition and outplaying them. So they created 1 big chance against Charlotte, 4 big chances against Louisville, 2 big chances against Indy, and have an expected goal differential of plus 2.85 throughout this run. So I just think Rhode Island has been the hotter team, the team that's playing a bit better and is giving themselves more chances in matches. I do worry about the altitude. I worry about the home field advantage, but I do know RIFC are going to have a ton of support at the match, and I know that energy can help bring them over the finish line. So I'm going to stick to 2-0. I never feel good about these predictions. It's the worst part of the show.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to make sure it doesn't happen. Right?
Yes. Awesome. So Ben, what do you got?
All right, so I'm also taking 2-0, but the other way around.
I thought you were going to say 2-0 Rhode Island. I was like, that is the best like hedge reverse jinx I've ever seen.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. I do think that there's a level of kind of whoever scores first sort of situation.
Huge. Yep.
Because a lot of what we were talking about, say Rhode Island gets a goal early or something, then it's much easier to just, pack it in and call it a day.
100%.
And while you guys have absolutely been, blood tested through these playoffs, absolutely, there's absolutely no way to say you haven't earned the right. I would argue that the Switchbacks are kind of a very distinctly different team than Charleston and Louisville by a distance.
Sure.
So, you've definitely worked for it, and I do appreciate that. It gives me something to do on Saturday. I do think that we are a very different challenge, and I do think when I say 2-0, I mean a cagey 2-0.
Oh yeah.
If anything, realistically, because I know one of the comments kind of mentioned kind of struggling to score a little bit, but I don't really equate it as much as struggling to score as much as we're okay not right now, especially in some of these, playoff situations. We've been pretty comfortable to just be like, you know what, like as long as it's over the line, I don't care how it looks. And you also got to think, against Las Vegas, we hit the post twice.
Mm-hmm.
Orange County, there was one of the airmen actually made a super near miss. There was one of the saves was incredible. I do think some of the score lines through this playoff run for us have been a little bit unflattering. Admittedly, I don't have the expected goal on a specific shot, but and I do think that there is very much a level of us where we're just like, we really, really are not winning a beauty contest, and we're okay with that. I do think that that's something, and I also think that's something, Rhode Island does really well too, is this absolute willingness to win ugly. At the end of the day, a win is a win is a win, and especially in a final, no one cares how it looks.
Absolutely.
So 2-0, but I'm going to say it's more of a 1-0 game, and that second goal is that throw in the kitchen sink, trying to get the equalizer, and maybe that that break at the end to kind of seal it.
No, I mean.
I'm expecting this to take no less than 8 years off my life. No less.
You and me both.
I'm going to be sitting there before just.
Hopefully, we all have a little bit of liquid courage in us to bring us over the finish line. But looking in the chat, we have Annie from Switchback Savvy with 2-1 Switchbacks. We got Andrew Quadros agreeing with me 2-0. We got Matt Hands, who's worried about R9. I absolutely despise that he goes by R9, but we will get to that another time. We got Ewan with 2-0 RIFC. We got Tim Sheldon with 2-1 full-time RIFC. Timmy Sclafani with 3-2 in extra time, and he said he's probably not going to make it at that point, which is fair. I don't either.
Yeah, I mean, no, look, if this goes to extra time, like, honestly, just kill me.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I know Timmy will literally be in the stadium, so he literally might not make it on his flight home. We got Coach with RIFC 3-1. We got FQB with 3-1 Kev, what an awful spelling of regulation. We got Santiago on Facebook with 3-2 Rhode Island FC. Have you noticed this is the Rhode Island FC show?
A high scoring game is look, I can live with like a low scoring extra time. If it's a high scoring extra time, truly that is the last.
But think of the neutral. Think of the neutral.
That is the one prediction that I hate the most. Yeah. I will take a 1-0 at this point. Honestly, one way or the other. A 3-2 or something extra time, I'm gonna die. I can't do it.
No. Yeah. Let's see. We got a lot in the chat here. So we got Tyler with 3-0, Sarah 3-1. A good question by Annie. Are the RIFC players there already? I think they flew out today.
Okay. I also saw one of the comments mention like altitude machines, and I'm sure they're going to have access to that a little bit, but it's totally different. You can have the mask, you can get ready for it. End of the day, you know, it's I mean, it's almost frustratingly a little bit warm. I would have loved it to be 30 degrees colder, just, you know, for my sake. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. I do think the altitude plays a massive part.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I looked like I did skip over one. We got Megatron here with 2-0. Sorry, Evan, I didn't see this because you wrote so much around the actual score.
All right, sounds like we can all agree no penalties. I think can we all kind of agree?
I think we should all shake our hands and just don't let it happen.
All wrap this up. Like, let's not do penalties. None of us need that.
I genuinely couldn't handle it. And just one last one here. We got 2-1 from Chris Wheeler on Facebook.
Turning around. I'm not watching. I'm leaving.
No, some of those first round matchups I had penalties. I was like, just leave the stadium at that point.
Yeah, I just like glad we're all in agreement on that one.
Awesome. Well, hey Ben, any last thoughts kind of heading into this one?
You know, I do think it's going to be a lot of fun. Yes. I mean, honestly, the stuff you guys have done this year, regardless of how anything pans out, has been absolutely incredible. You know, putting together a team and really kind of getting it to gel really when you did, or even get it as quickly. I mean, yeah, I know the start of the year was like a little shaky, if I remember right, because I remember kind of keeping up with it. But you know, even just being able to band it together at all is incredible, and that's no matter what, something that should be, you know, an incredible feeling. I also got to say, you know, I do love the color scheme.
Okay.
The gold and the black, it's classy. It makes me think a little bit of like classic Wolverhampton a little bit with the, the gold and the black.
I would say it's a blue, not a black.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's like a navy. Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I said because Battery are gold and black too.
Okay.
We were there last weekend. Yeah.
You know what? Fair enough. I didn't actually realize that. So
it's more I didn't want to earn your love unfairly. You know, I just want to make sure the facts are on the table.
Honestly, it's the worst. The idea that it's an accent color honestly kind of adds to something a little bit. Like that adds, because it adds a little bit of spice in there. You know what I mean? Sure. It's the paprika on it. You know, and then I also see somebody asking about the CBS broadcast. Kind of no idea what to expect a little bit. I know the Galazzo ones have been kind of funky all year, but this is like mainline CBS, which is definitely going to be pretty crazy. I mean, hopefully there's no issues. I know where the camera's at on the field. It's a pretty good shot of the field. It's a really good view. So, you know, I don't think there'll be any major issues, because I do know that was part of the deliberate choices with some of the construction.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's nice about it being in a soccer-specific stadium for
Yeah.
this one, and hopefully we see more of those throughout all the next years.
No, absolutely. I mean, I do know they're cropping up. We definitely have done a lot of interesting things. Funny enough, actually, speaking of the stadium, just a little fun fact for everybody. I do know that the Switchback Stadium is one of the only, I think it's the only USL stadium that's actually technically within FIFA qualifications.
Ooh.
So theoretically, it is within qualifications for, like, say, an international match. It does fit FIFA regulations, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And with the commentators don't suck, they're going to be great for me one way or the other. I'm pretty sure USL pretty much always leans on home.
Yeah.
Crowd. So, if you're a Rhode Island fan, you might not love it.
We can put on mute. We'll figure it out.
Someone who's got to listen to San Antonio reporting at least once a year.
Yep.
I feel it. Trust me.
That was definitely something that I've been getting used to all year because like some sports you'll see that on like the local sports channel, but like when it's like ESPN Plus, but the announcer is like very clearly the home announcer, that's always thrown me off all year this season.
No, absolutely. It's definitely something that like you got to kind of know before you go in, and otherwise you spend the whole game like, what's going on with this guy? I'm like, this guy's.
You watch the game? Yeah. Is he watching this?
Yeah, exactly. And then they pan to him, and he's got like 6 different home brandings. Like, oh, okay.
Oh, he has every single jersey ever from this club on. That's unbelievable. How did he do that?
Like, damn, they really buttered him up before he won.
Awesome. Well, hey, Ben, we really, really appreciate you joining us here to preview this one. I know everyone is unbelievably excited on both sides. And again, I know everyone's excited. Can't wait to party before, after the match. Obviously, we'll have some fun in between. But
absolutely. Look, for anyone who's going to the game tomorrow night, I know I got the hat on, but look for the color. I usually got like a headband. There's a kilt. There's a whole thing going on. So, you're absolutely more than welcome to come, say hi to me if I'm walking around the stadium or something like that. I'll make sure to bring a scarf with me if anyone's interested in doing a scarf trade or something like that. I would absolutely love that. So, 100% open. Obviously, hope you guys have a horrible day tomorrow, objectively, but like also, at the same time, it's all love, and it's gonna be interesting. And if I said Friday, my bad. I go to work until someone tells me not to, and then I end up at a game.
Beautiful. Honestly, I think a lot of us wish that was happening this week because all of us are like, how is it still 3 days away? This is awful.
The thing is, honestly, like at this point, I just want it to be over. There's like a level where I'm like, you know what? Like, honestly, I just want it over with. At least I want to get to the after part so I can either celebrate or commiserate.
Yep.
Either way, this buildup is driving me crazy. I'm at work, and work all week has been crazy, and I'm just like, I do not need this. I need the calmest, most tranquil week possible.
Well, at least it's getting us there faster.
At least we're getting there,
Awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, thank you so much for joining. And thanks again. I know that everyone is so psyched for this one. And thank you to all of you who either joined in the chat or are listening to this afterwards. Remember that Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for all of our daily social media content. Click that link in this episode description to follow all of our accounts. If you're not there already, join the RIFC Nation Facebook group. We just eclipsed 850 members earlier this week, and it's a great place to see more RIFC content and interact with fellow fans. If you're not already using the RIFC Club Collector app, make sure you click the link in this episode description and type in the code Tide Talk, all one word, to get a free pack to add to your collection. Again, there's one more chance to play a matchup. What a time to play. And then reminder that we will be at Providence Brewing for this one. So come on down. I'll probably be there pretty close to 10:30 for this one. I'm really excited. Get there early, grab a seat, and grab a delicious Tide Talk beer and hang out with us. Thanks again for tuning in for Tide Talk. I've been your host, Ryan. And as always, up the Tide.